All right, you guys. So in this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and get started with the incomplete cubes assignment. Now, I'm going to be doing several tutorials throughout the semester, just kind of walking you guys through all the steps, kind of going step by step. And I'm actually going to be doing the assignment with you guys. All right. And so this way you'll get to see how I go about it. And while I do it, I'll try to kind of show you guys different tricks, different ways of doing it. And I might make mistakes here and there as well, which is part of the process. And then I'll kind of go and show you how to fix those mistakes if you make similar mistakes yourself. Now, after reading the assignment, after reading the prompt, you might still be a little confused as to what this assignment is. And I will admit that it is a bit of an unorthodox approach, but that's kind of the fun in it all. And the whole point is in this is to kind of try something different, step outside of your comfort zones, and just explore and have fun with it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and design a building, design this two-story building using this incomplete open cubes as a launching point into the actual design. Okay. So what I have here, what I'm showing you guys is SketchUp. I just opened it up. I haven't done anything. All right. So you're going to do the same thing. You'll open up SketchUp. Now, the very first thing that you should do, and this isn't just for SketchUp, this is for any software. Okay. The very first thing you're going to do when you open a file, you can go to File and save that file. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just put mine on my desktop. I'm not sure if you guys could see my dialog box or not, but it's just the regular dialog box. Let's call this Fall 21 Incomplete Cubes. Okay, and I'm going to hit save. Now, the reason why we save, why saving the file at the very beginning is so important, is that SketchUp, like most programs, will save backup files. So as I'm working or as I hit save, it'll have one backup file and it'll save onto that backup file as well, right? And so let's say I do some work, hit the save button. 15 minutes later, I do this more work and I hit the save button again. What I now have what I will have is two separate files, and one of them is a backup file so that if one file gets corrupted, or sometimes you have a blackout, sometimes the computer just crashes, then at least you'll have a backup file. Now, let's say we don't save. What happens then? If we don't save, and oftentimes what ends up happening is you end up working 2, 3, 4 hours, and then the blackout happens or the computer crashes. And at that point, because you never had a backup file, then you've lost everything. On top of that, hitting Control S on a PC or Command S is a really quick shortcut key to save a file. And this will be really kind of useful so that as we're working, really quickly just hit Control S and then continue working. We don't even have to come up here, hit File, Save, and go through that process again. Okay, so it's really important, especially working with digital files, to save your work constantly. It will happen. It's not a matter of it's not a matter of will it happen, right? Will I, forget to save my file? Will my computer crash? It's just a matter of when will it happen. All right. So if you can build into or get yourself into this kind of rhythm of saving your file regularly, you're going to save yourself a lot of headaches in the future. Okay. So I've saved my file. I'm good to go. I have my little person here. I forget what they call this one. This is Smiley. I'm looking at the name up here. They always add a new person in with every new SketchUp year. I'm going to delete her. So I click on her using the left click and then hit the delete key on the keyboard. Okay. So I'm going to start off by making one 12 by 12 cube. Now, the first step to making the 12 by 12 incomplete cube is to make a 6 by 6 post. Okay. So there's several different ways of doing this, and I'm going to show you guys a couple different ways. The first way is just simply using the line tool. Okay, this guy right up here. The shortcut key on the keyboard is the letter L. So all I have to do is hit the letter L on the keyboard, no L or an enter or anything like that, just the letter L. And I'm going to click once, move my cursor out. I'll go ahead and hit the left arrow key. This way I lock it in place along the green axis. And I'm going to type in 6, enter. Now I'll go along the red axis, hit the right arrow key, 6, enter. Left arrow key, now this time I'm going to move the mouse down, 6, enter, and right arrow key, move the mouse to the left, 6, enter, and there we go. We have a 6x6. Now what I'm going to do is use the push-pull, this guy up here, or the letter P. I'm going to pull this up 12 feet, 12 apostrophe enter. Now remember, once we go up, we triple click, 1, 2, 3, right click, make group. Okay, so we have our first 6x6 by 12 post. I'm going to do another one. This time I'm going to go horizontal. Okay. Yeah. Now it's a lot easier to draw on a surface. If we're going to do draw a surface here, so we know what I'm talking about. If I want to draw a surface going this way, right? It's a lot easier when I have a surface to draw onto, okay? But the other thing that we can do is hit the right arrow key along the, hit the right arrow key on the keyboard, and that means that it's going to draw a rectangle along the red axis, which is what I want. You could do the same thing with the left arrow key if you wanted to, or if we want to do another 6x6 that way. But I'm going to go along the right arrow key, so along the red axis, and then I'm going to just type in 6, 6, enter. And there's my 6x6 cube. If you want, we could go ahead and measure it, use a tape measure, 6 inches by 6 inches. I'm hitting the space bar so that I can go back to my selection tool. And now I'm going to use the push pull. And I'm going to go out 12 feet. 12 feet, enter. And remember, we triple click, 1, 2, 3, right click, make group. I'm going to take a minute really quickly just to underline that it's important that when you triple click, you don't get into the habit where you're just triple clicking and then going to make right click, make group. You want to kind of pause for a split second in between those steps, 1, 2, 3, just to make sure that you actually have all of the surfaces selected. And the easiest way to tell is if I triple click and I can see multiple surfaces plus multiple lines, not just along the same surface, but going in opposite directions, right? Or along other axes. Then I know that, okay, I did select everything. Because it's a very common mistake. Sometimes you triple click so fast that the mouse only picks up 2 clicks as opposed to the 3 clicks. And if you're not paying attention, you'll just end up grouping a single surface, right? And then these other surfaces are never grouped, and this becomes a huge headache later on down the line because you realize certain things aren't grouped and it messes up with other surfaces and it becomes a problem, okay? So the point is, when you triple click, 1, 2, 3, take a split second, just look, make sure that you have other surfaces selected. It's also one of the reasons why I'll never triple click with my camera only looking at one surface, right? So if I triple click here, 1, 2, 3, I can't tell if I was able to select the other surfaces behind there as well. Okay, so I always make sure that I'm kind of at a perspective, or that the camera is in a perspective. This way, whenever I'm triple clicking, I could always double check and make sure that other surfaces are selected. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a group. Let's do one more. This time we'll go along the green axis. So click, sorry, I'm using the rectangle tool. I'm not sure if I explained that last time. Using the rectangle tool, this tool right up here, hit the letter R on the keyboard. Okay, I'm hitting the right arrow key, left arrow key. Okay, this way I'm going along the green axis, and then I'm just going to type in 6, 6, enter. And I'll use the push pull, and I'm going to go out 12 feet. enter, and then I'll triple click 1, 2, 3. Notice that I have the other surfaces selected, and I have other lines selected as well, not just the lines where I clicked on. Right click, make group. All right, so now I have 3 6x6. Let's call them posts, okay? Because essentially this is going to act as a structure. What I want to do is put them together and create my own incomplete cube. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just start off by making one. I'll use the move tool. Now the key here, okay, one of the things is that we want to make sure that when we place them, we are not butting them up against one another, but that we are having them run into one another, right? So you could see how the blue lines are crossing this one post, right? That means that this blue, we'll call this a blue post with the one with the blue lines. This blue post is running in to this vertical post, right? That's what we want. What we do not want is them connected kind of side by side. We don't want that because in the end, our goal is to have a 12-foot by 12-foot cube. And if this is 12 feet, but if this is 12 feet in length, but we butt them up, so now we have an additional 6 inches, that means my length here is 12 feet. My overall length is 12 feet 6 inches, which we don't want. So for that reason, I want them to kind of intersect one another. I'll do the same thing over here, grab this one, use the move tool. Now remember that with the move tool, we always have to figure out, we kind of have to think 2 steps ahead. Which corner needs to line up with which corner? And then how am I going to grab it? Or where am I going to grab it? So in this case, I'm going to want that corner to line up with that corner. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it from that corner and place it right there. I'll hit the selection tool, the space bar. That's going to take me back to the black arrow. Okay. So now we have 3 posts. Okay. Now remember that one of the rules is that this incomplete cube has to run in 3 dimensions. So it's going to have to go up, to the right, and one to the left, right? Or let's call it one along the red axis, one along the green axis, one along the blue axis. This is the minimum requirement for the incomplete cubes, right? So in other words, we cannot have just 2 posts because it's just running along the blue and running along the red. We need something that runs along the green axis as well. Okay. The other requirement was that you can't have one that's just kind of floating in midair, right? In other words, one that's not connected. So if we wanted to, I'm going to kind of speed up here. And let's say I wanted to line that up over here, right? We can't just say, you know, this is an incomplete cube because these or this post here is not connected to anything else, right? So the other rule is that all of the pieces, all of the posts have to be connected in one, at least in a corner. Okay. So this is the bare minimum, but that's not what I want. I'm going to go ahead and add a few more here. Now, once you get the hang of creating the rectangles and the 6x6 and extruding it to 12 feet, and I do recommend that you practice that until you feel comfortable, because you're not going to be efficient moving on down the line if you're already moving towards shortcuts, and if you're already if you're moving along faster than what you actually are comfortable moving along faster with, right? Learn the basics first, and then we can talk about then go ahead and move on to faster ways of doing it. Okay. But once you feel comfortable, then you can go ahead and actually skip a step or skip a few steps by simply grabbing one of the posts that you've already made and just use the copy tool. So we're going to use the move tool. Now I'm going to want to move this and put it out here to this corner over there. So that means I'm probably going to want that corner and this corner to line up. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this post from here. I'm going to use I'm using the move tool. I'm moving it. Now, before I place it, I'm going to hit the control key on the keyboard. And that's if you're on a PC. If you're on a Mac, it's either going to be the command or it should be the command key, right? Or the Apple key. Okay. If it's not one of those, then try the other ones that are in that corner. So I believe it's a command key. And then I think you also have an Apple key. And I believe you have an Alt key. The other thing, actually, no, I take that back. You know what you can do? Sorry, clearly I'm not on a Mac. We'll go ahead and start the move. Okay. Now, before you place the object, look down here, and it's going to tell you. So I'm on a PC, so that's why it's telling me Control equals toggle copy. If you're on a Mac, look down here, and it'll tell you which key to press. Okay. So we're going to now go ahead and just tap it. You don't have to hold it. Just tap the key. And now I can go ahead and place it right there. And let's go ahead and take this guy. Now this is going to be tricky. Okay. If I want to copy this over here to this corner, okay, and have it come out this way, where am I going to grab it? Well, the only points that I really have are this top corner back there, right? This one over here, or this one right there. So if I'm looking at this, then that means that I actually have to turn my camera around and grab it at either this corner here or this corner there. So I'm going to go ahead and use the move tool, grab it from that corner, zoom out, hit the control key to copy, and then click to finish. Okay. And there we go. There we have it. I think I'm happy with this one incomplete cube. So once I'm done with the incomplete cube, I'm going to go ahead and just do a cross window. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag and move the cursor over and then let go. All right, and that's going to select everything. Now there's actually two types of cross windows. One where I go from the left and then another one where I go from the right. And you'll notice that the difference is one has the dashed lines, the other one has solid lines. And simply the only difference or what they do is if you get the dashed lines, it means that it's going to select everything that is within the box plus everything that the lines are touching. So I'm going to purposely just hover over or go over the incomplete cube partially. But you'll notice that these were also selected, even though they weren't entirely inside my rectangle, they were still selected because the line cut through them. Now, if I go the other way around, you'll notice that only these two were selected because they were the only two that were entirely inside my rectangle. Okay. In any case, what I want to do is just select all of the pieces, right click, make group. And there we have our first incomplete cube. This is one of 12 that we have to create. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, you want to practice creating the 6x6x12 posts. Using the line tool, using the rectangle tool, try different ways, get into the habit, feel comfortable with it. And then once you feel comfortable with it, or do it several times, right? Until you feel comfortable with it. And then once you do feel comfortable with it, then you can go ahead and, do little workarounds where we're copying and as opposed to having to redraw it every single time. Okay. I guarantee you that yes, it is more work, but in the long run, you're going to feel more comfortable with the program if you kind of just learn these simple kind of tools and really practice until you feel comfortable with it. Okay. But let's assume that you now feel comfortable or you get to a point where you feel comfortable making those 6x6 by 12 posts, what I can do, let's say I finished one incomplete cube. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. I'm actually going to move it. I'll hit the control key to copy it. Okay. And I'm actually just going to move it, say 25 feet. So I'll type it and I'll hit the right arrow key along this way. It's locked within the red axis. And I'll move the cursor out. And then I'll just type in 25 apostrophe enter. Okay. Now what this is going to end up doing is that it'll end up lining everything up 25. If I keep doing it this way, it's going to line everything up 25 feet apart. Okay. Now that's not a requirement for the assignment, whether they're aligned or whether they're not, or whether they're 25 feet apart or not. That's not a requirement. I just feel that it'll make it look, it'll be a way that you could organize the incomplete cubes, and it'll look better once everything's kind of in place. Okay. But again, not a requirement. So don't stress out about it if you're unable to do that. So now that I have the copy, what I'm going to do is right click and explode. Okay. If you remember, explode essentially just means ungroup. Okay. So I selected, I right click, exploded, and now I'm back to just having these individual ones. When you explode a group, you're just exploding that one kind of layer of group. In this case over here, I click on it and I have one group, but inside this one group, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate groups. So by me right clicking and exploding it, it's only exploding this one group with the 5 pieces inside. Each piece is still grouped. And if I wanted to explode these, then I can go ahead and select it, right click and explode. And then it takes me back to just having individual surfaces, which I don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and make a group again. All right. So once I have a couple of these pieces, it's pretty kind of simple and straightforward from there, because what I can do is just take them, rearrange them, move them around. Right. Go ahead, make sure that we're hitting all the corners. Maybe this one, I want to put one over here. Okay. And maybe what I'll do is take this one and copy this over. Hit the control key to copy. Okay. And maybe what I'll do is I'll take this one and add it over here to this corner. I'm going to go ahead and copy it. Sorry about that. My son woke up and started crying. And I thought I hit pause, but turns out I'm still learning the Zoom tools, so didn't pause it. Anyways, so let's say I have this incomplete cube and I'm happy with it. Now I'll go ahead and do another cross window, right click and make group. Okay. And then at this point, I do the same thing. Use the move tool, copy this over, hit the right arrow key, go 25 feet, enter. And then I'll go ahead and explode this one. And then I'll go ahead and start to rearrange this to create another incomplete cube. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording at this point, and I'm going to go ahead and work on the other 10 incomplete cubes. I'm not going to bore you guys and watch you guys and make you guys watch me go through every single one, because after a while it gets repetitive. But I will say, to make sure that that you're creating your own incomplete cubes. Okay, you do not have to copy mine. I don't want you to copy mine. I want you guys to come up with your own, have fun with it, explore different opportunities, and then play around with it. All right, I'll go ahead and resume the recording once I've done all 12. Okay. All right, so I went ahead and completed my 12 incomplete cubes. They're all lined up. The one thing I just want to kind of reiterate, or maybe mention, one of the things that kind of came up while I was laying these out, is just make sure that when you are moving things, I'm gonna go ahead and just copy this one out and explode it. Just make sure that when you are moving these posts from corner to corner or from one side to the other side, that you're actually zooming in using the move tool and making sure that you're moving objects from the correct intersection points, right? You don't want to accidentally grab it from, say, this edge point, right? Because when I zoom in, it's not at the corner, it's over here. And with SketchUp, it's very easy to grab something, to think that you're at a corner, and at the last second before you actually click the button, your hand moves, the mouse moves, and then before you know it, you've now grabbed an object, you think you're in the right place, and then you end up with something like this, right? Where clearly these two are no longer connected, right? Or this is no longer butting up or joining, intersecting with this one because we have this little gap over here, and that's because we didn't grab it from the correct location. Now, right here, zoomed really far in, it's really obvious. The problem is that especially students who are just starting off, they're not used to, or you're not used to kind of zooming in, zooming out. Look at that. Yeah, see, it's messed up on the top as well. You're not used to zooming in, zooming out, and orbiting around while also using the move tool, hitting control to copy, using these other tools, right? That comes with practice, to zoom in, zoom out, maneuver around while being in the middle of a command as well, okay? And so the problem becomes that from this distance, if you're not zooming in, this corner here looks pretty good, looks fine. It's not until you zoom in that you realize what the problem is, okay? And I've seen this mistake happen so often, okay? So the point is just make sure that if and when you do move objects, that you're zooming in, you're making sure that, okay, I see the X, that X does pop up. My cursor is locked into that endpoint or to that corner. And then I'll go ahead and click and then place it in the correct location, because the same mistake can happen over here when you actually place it. I could accidentally place it somewhere right there, right? Which is not what we want, but from far away, if you're not paying attention, it looks fine, right? So just make sure that you're clicking on the correct corners. You're zooming in, you're zooming out, you're verifying all of these things, okay? I know a lot of times, or often, especially as I'm modeling and lecturing, I kind of move quick on certain things. But when you're starting off, it's so much better to start off slow, build your confidence with the program up, build your comfort level, make sure that you're doing everything correctly, okay? And then from there, you can get a little bit faster and faster and faster with practice. If you try to rush it, you end up with more mistakes, which causes problems down the line, which becomes issues because you don't know how to fix those problems. It kind of sets you back. You feel lost. Not only that, the more problems you have, the more lost you feel in the program. So, my advice is don't try to rush it. Take your time with it. Feel comfortable. Practice until you feel comfortable before you kind of find these little tricks of moving faster. Okay. And once you do find these tricks, practice those. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for now. Go ahead and turn this off, delete this one, because this is step 1 to the incomplete cubes. Create 12 individual incomplete cubes that are all different in kind of form, but they all fit they're all 12 feet by 12 feet by 12 feet. All right. In the next video, we'll go ahead and move on to step number 2.